American Giant makes great clothing, sweatshirts, jeans, and more right here in the U.S. Visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order with code STAPLE20. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com, code STAPLE20.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey there, welcome to True Crime and the Court of Public Opinion. I am Alexis Knight. Here we talk scandals, headlines, cases, and courtroom chaos. But at the end of the day and through it all, we are here for one thing, the truth. It's Memorial Day in America, a day meant to honor the fallen, reflect on sacrifice, and come together as a country. But instead of unity, the media gave us smoke and mirrors, outrage bait, and polished illusions of strength. From phantom violence in the streets to pre-scripted tributes from a fading president, this weekend was not about remembrance. It was about distraction. Control the story, and you control the people. Well, here we're going to break down the biggest lies you were fed this Memorial Day weekend, because when the truth is buried under a pile of headlines, somebody's got to dig it out, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's get into it. And the headline I'd like to start out with is Memorial Day Weekend Chaos. Cities erupt in violence. You might have seen this splashed across Fox News, the New York Post, Daily Mail, and a dozen fear-chasing Instagram accounts reposting this same looped chaos clip with sirens cranked to 11. I mean, this is what the headlines said, that the cities were erupting in chaos over our Memorial Day weekend. That's what the blue check screamed. And if you scrolled X or Twitter, you probably thought Chicago, Atlanta, and Oakland were burning to the ground. But here's the truth. They weren't. What actually happened was a handful of localized incidents, some teen flash mobs, a couple of fireworks incidents, and an illegal street race that ended with a car on fire. I mean, was it loud? Sure. Was it scary? To the people on the ground, yes. Was it a nationwide uprising? A collapse of law and order? No. That was fantasy fueled by old footage, cheap rage bait, and media outlets desperate to keep your blood pressure spiked. Really. And let's talk about the footage. Some of what you saw wasn't even from this weekend. A clip of looters in broad daylight? That one, 2020. The video of a burning police car? That one, Minneapolis, 3 years ago. And yet, here it comes again. Recycled, relabeled, and shoved back into your feed as proof that America is completely going to hell this weekend. This is headline laundering. You know, you take a nothing event, attach a dramatic caption, pair it with an old clip, and boom, instant outrage. What do we always say? They just need an emotion. Fear, outrage, rage. You know, it trends, it clicks. It gets reposted because people are interested. So everyone wants a piece of it. Then you have 1,000 new versions, you know, of the same message, which was this country's finished, basically. And here's what really just ticks me off here. While you were glued to the chaos that wasn't, nobody noticed what actually was going on. Another quiet wildfire in Colorado barely got any coverage. Maui residents are still living in FEMA purgatory. Why aren't we talking about that? And major cities are still hollowing out from within, but you were told to fear teens in a parking lot with cell phones and Red Bulls. Okay, why is that? We go over this every time. It's because fear is fuel. It sells ads, it feeds algorithms, and it keeps you on edge and very easy to control. This wasn't about crime. This was about conditioning. They want you afraid and angry, but most of all, they want you distracted with what they're giving you. So, okay, the next time a headline screams chaos, just take a second. Ask yourself, who benefits when you believe the country's on fire? Because this weekend, it wasn't the cities that were burning. Clearly, it was the truth. All right, next headline up says Biden strong and steady as he leads holiday tributes. You might have seen this one, CNN, MSNBC, USA Today, and various social media platforms, all portraying a robust image of Biden during Memorial Day ceremonies. I mean, the media painted a picture of strength and resilience as former President Joe Biden participated in Memorial Day tributes. However, beneath the surface, concerns about his health and the transparency of information provided to the public have come into light. Just in May, here in 2025, Biden was diagnosed with aggressive, metastasized prostate cancer that had spread to his bones. This diagnosis followed reports and a new book, Original Sin, which detailed how Biden's inner circle allegedly downplayed signs of his cognitive decline during his presidency. The book claims that a close-knit group of advisors, referred to as the Politburo, managed Biden's public appearance and then shielded him from scrutiny, raising questions about who was truly making decisions in the White House during his tenure. These revelations have sparked debates about the importance of transparency regarding the health of our public officials and the potential implications of withholding information like this from the electorate. The portrayal of Biden as strong and steady during Memorial Day tributes, it just contrasts sharply with recent disclosures about his health and the alleged efforts to conceal his decline. Why so strong here? As the nation reflects on leadership and accountability, these revelations underscore the need for transparency at the highest levels of government. All right, next up, the headline reads, Measles outbreak spreads across U.S. Officials urge vaccination. You might have seen this one across routers, NBC, CNN, and public health alerts warning that cases are rising and that everyone needs to check their vaccination status urgently. Okay? Now, on the surface, this looks like a standard public health announcement. A rise in cases, a call for vaccinations, a concern about community spread. But under that headline, there's a giant question no one in the media or government seems to want to answer. Who is it that actually has the measles? Who is this affecting? Because if you try to find out, you'll find out quick that you hit a wall. There's no demographic breakdown, no citizenship data, no open conversations about how this virus is moving. All we get is general fear and vague numbers. Now, as of this weekend, over 1,000 cases have been confirmed across 31 states. Texas reporting the highest count. They have 728 cases. That's as of when I got my information. This includes 2 child deaths, by the way. I mean, that's serious. This deserves coverage. But here's what they're leaving out. Let's take Colorado, okay? The first measles case since 2023 popped up in Pueblo. And the patient, not that they told anyone, was an unvaccinated adult who had just returned from Mexico, where measles outbreaks are ongoing. That's from the Colorado Sun. It is public. It's verifiable. But you are not going to find that detail in the national coverage. Why is that? Well, opens a door they don't want you walking through. But here's the unspoken reality. Several of these outbreaks trace back to recent travel from measles hot regions, especially Mexico and Central America. And yes, some of those individuals are undocumented. Okay, that's not xenophobic. It's not racist. It's a fact. And we deserve to know the facts about the information we are given so that we can determine how much or what applies to us. Okay, these are medical facts that we should know. It's tied to immigration. Why is it a crime to discuss that? I mean, pretending otherwise puts people at risk. In the Pueblo case, locals were never told the ethnicity or immigration status of the infected person. In Texas, the epicenter counties overlap heavily with recent migrant relocation centers. But good luck finding that connection on CNN, for instance, because instead they're giving you the standard scare script. Listen for yourself. Check your vaccination records, get boosted, stay alert, as if you need to be responsible for your health, but it's not responsible because you don't have all the information to know if this even affects you. I mean, never mind that the majority of U.S.-born adults are already vaccinated. So why are the numbers surging now? Well, because the truth is this: you can't fix an outbreak if you will not name the source. You can't protect communities if you're more afraid of political fallout than epidemiology. Honestly, we need to know what is happening in our country so that we can protect ourselves and stop listening to the headlines telling us what to do when that may or may not apply to us, but the other information might. The CDC knows this, guys. Local health departments know this, and I am telling you this. They have been conditioned to conceal, because if you say the quiet part out loud, it's labeled as hate, okay? But it's public safety. We need to use our common sense and demand the truth in things like this. All right, next up. Headline reads, Texas executes man despite global backlash. Did you see it? Might have been on BBC, The Guardian, MSNBC, and NPR, pushing hard on America's inhumane justice system and Texas's reputation for fast-track executions. Did it get the job done? All right, let's start with something I don't usually say when I'm doing headline lies. This headline is not technically false. The man was executed. The backlash was very real. The international coverage happened. But here is where the lie is hiding. This is a diversion, a strategically timed firework designed to grab your attention right when something else starts burning. And no one ever talks about that part. But why does it matter? Well, these high-profile executions, they don't just happen. They take years, sometimes decades, to clear through all the appeals and reviews and politics and press cycles. But when it finally goes through, then the timing becomes everything. And this one dropped right in the middle of a Memorial Day news vacuum. While people are traveling and barbecuing and half paying attention to the news, this story just conveniently explodes across international headlines. Things like America's killing people still, Texas ignoring human rights, and the U.S. is falling behind the rest of the world. Okay, but what you did not hear, what they never tell you, is what was going on behind that firework. Texas is currently facing a wave of scandals in its prison system, if you didn't know. Ongoing DOJ probes into the use of force incidents, whistleblower lawsuits over faked incident reports, footage of officers beating restrained inmates, and rising heat over inmates dying during heat waves with no air conditioning. I mean, in other words, the prison system's on fire, guys. But instead of having coverage about these conditions or reform or justice delays, the public got a perfectly timed execution and a debate about morality. Just like that. And by the way, these executions, they usually just never pop up randomly. They are scheduled, delayed, rescheduled, and then suddenly, boom, they clear the final hurdles right when a distraction is needed the most. This is another pattern. This case, the victim's family, had been waiting over 20 years, and now, right now on Memorial Day weekend, it all lines up perfectly. The real manipulation here is not the story of execution. It's the story that was buried in its shadow. Instead of people asking, why are inmates in Texas dying in 115-degree heat with no cooling? Why are appeals taking 10 years with no movement? What is that all about? We all see it. Why does it take 20 years for one case to resolve? What's happening in the meantime? You get the global outrage loop. It's what this is. The outrage machine runs, the media takes the bait, and the system behind it all gets to breathe a little easier. More good. They don't have to worry about it. See, it all gets delayed. Don't have that discussion. So the point is, sometimes the lie isn't what they say. It's when they say it and what they make you forget while they're saying it. You want to know what justice looks like in America? Ask who benefits when your attention is aimed the other way. And all right, moving on. Here's our next headline. Record number of Americans travel for the holiday. Probably saw this on CNN or ABC. It was on Yahoo Finance and the travel blog Industrial Complex, celebrating a so-called comeback. Record travel. People are back on the road. Holiday spending boom. This sounds like great news, doesn't it? A patriotic surge of movement. Airports full, road trips booming. America's back, baby. Except it's all a lie. Or more accurately, it's a statistical illusion designed to make you think the economy's thriving when most people are barely scraping by. Fact. Let's break it down. The media ran with this stat. More than 43 million Americans are expected to travel 50 miles or more over the holiday weekend. I mean, wow, that sounds massive. But dig into the data, and that's where you're going to find the truth. Most of that travel, it's local, a 2-hour radius. Airfare is up over 25% from just 2023. And can't imagine from before that. Gas prices remain inflated. Hotel rates, they're through the roof in major metros. And the average family is spending less per trip than any Memorial Day in the last 5 years. That's the truth. So what's really happening? People aren't traveling because they're flush with cash. They're leaving town for a few hours because they're exhausted and they're broke. And they're trying to get some kind of break, trying to feel normal at all. And most of them are not flying, by the way. They're not splurging. They're definitely not part of some booming middle-class revival. You know what else they aren't saying? AAA's travel projections. They come from booking data, car rentals, insurance policies, and third-party bookings. So you know what that means. They're counting intent. This is not trips that actually happened. And who sponsors most of these data releases? Okay, finding out what trips people were scheduling? Well, the travel and auto companies. Conflict of interest much? This headline, guys, was not written to inform you. It was written to calm you down, to tell you, hey, see, everything's fine. People are moving. Everyone's happy. This means things are good. But they're not. Look around at your reality. Layoffs, rising rent. The groceries, they're still inflated. Credit card debt, it's at record highs. But sure, hey, America's in motion. Just don't ask why or how far or what any of it really is. They don't need to fake numbers. They just need you to stop questioning them. The next time you hear record travel, ask, where's everyone going? Like down the street? And how long can they afford to even stay anywhere? because movement does not mean progress, especially when you're just running from the truth. All right, guys, we're going to move on to this next one. Listen carefully to this segment. Lots going on here. The headline read, Trump under fire for Memorial Day message. Saw this one across MSNBC, Axios, The Independent, and viral political accounts framing the president's Memorial Day post as outrageous, tone-deaf, even dangerous. I mean, let's call this what it is. This headline is what I'd like to call a trigger headline. Not a lie in words, but a lie in intention. So over the weekend, the President of the United States posted a message for Memorial Day. One line was clipped, and it circulated without any context. And the headlines lit it up. Under fire, disrespects the fallen, and unhinged. And just like that, you were not talking about veterans. You weren't talking about sacrifice, history, or national memory. You were talking about a post. But see, here's the catch. It wasn't about what was said. It was about who said it. Because the media already knows the response, right? Say the name of the president and you get two instant reactions. Blind loyalty or blind rage. Either way, you're not thinking critically anymore. And that is the danger, because if they can control how you react to a simple holiday greeting with big emotions, I mean, they can control how you respond to pretty much anything. The strategy is very simple, guys. Clip a line, remove all tone or context, and then assign an emotional value to it that you are bringing in and blast it across platforms until the response becomes the story. Doesn't matter what happened that day. Doesn't matter that a whistleblower in DHS came forward, or that more banking institutions are being investigated for laundering cartel money. I mean, those are real news stories. But all of that disappears because the outrage cycle, it's too profitable to stop. And that's why you always get it instead of news. Like, let's be clear about this one. It's not about the individual in office. Not really. This is about how we are being trained to respond to leadership like Pavlovian dogs. Hear a name, feel a feeling, see a headline, take a side. There's no time to ask questions, no time to think. And that is the real story. When did a Memorial Day message become a landmine? When did patriotism get replaced with emotional programming? When did we stop expecting depth and start rewarding whoever could make us feel something the fastest? It's pretty pathetic, guys. And the American presidency, it is not supposed to be a trigger word. And Memorial Day is not supposed to be bait. So disrespectful. But the media turns every sentence into a loyalty test. The real casualty isn't truth, it's the American mind, really. And all right, let's move on to the last headline I'm going to talk about today. And it reads, California braces for another wildfire season. This one, you might have seen it across the AP wire, NPR, local West Coast stations, and climate-focused feeds paired with, smoky photos, red skies, and all those familiar warnings about heat and drought and historic conditions. I mean, every year around this time, we get the same forecast. Have you noticed? Record heat, low rainfall, high winds. Get ready, it's gonna be bad. And the media paints it like nature has some kind of vendetta, like these fires are just spontaneous rage from Mother Earth herself. But they never mention the real culprit. They never ask the question that actually matters. Why do the same power companies keep getting a pass when their lines spark these fires year after year? This year's headline says California is bracing. But that's all they're ever going to do. Brace, warn, and panic. What they won't do is force PG&E in Southern California Edison to upgrade their aging, exposed infrastructure. I have a whole episode, and a lot of it concentrates on this situation if you want to check back on that. But, PG&E alone has caused multiple deadly fires in the last decade, including the 2018 Camp Fire, which killed 85 people and leveled the entire town of Paradise. They pleaded guilty to 84 counts of manslaughter and just had to pay settlements. Then they filed for bankruptcy. All seems dramatic. No, they're still operating, and they're still using lines that have not been buried, shielded, or meaningfully upgraded. Did that all happen without you knowing it? And now the headlines are back. Brace for fires? But don't worry, we'll say it's climate change, probably your fault. It's definitely not infrastructure failure, not regulatory failure, not the fact that PG&E cut corners for profit and killed nearly 100 people. And guess what? They're doing it again. Reports show minimal progress on major fire mitigation efforts. Pre-season inspections are rushed, and thousands of miles of vulnerable lines are still active in high-risk wind zones. Truth and fact, guys. But sure, let's all blame the weather. Meanwhile, in places like Hawaii, locals are still waiting for answers about how that one fire started, why there were no warnings, why land developers began circling like vultures before the smoke even cleared. Take notice. And here's the kicker. Every year when these fires start, the story becomes, loss and disaster and tragedy. But then once those embers die down, everything goes silent. Rebuilds begin. Zoning laws conveniently change. Corporate land grabs happen before people can even settle with insurance. And nobody talks about how the whole thing started in the first place. Because headlines like this one, they teach us to accept it. That's why I always say you need to demand the truth. We forgot about that as a large group in America. Fires aren't treated like preventable events anymore. They're treated like seasons that you just need to hope it doesn't happen to you. It's all wrong. If we're bracing for wildfires, maybe we should also brace for another round of excuses and payouts and silence, because as long as no one holds the match and no one asks who benefits from the burn, we're not bracing for disaster. We're participating in one. 7 headlines, 7 spins, and not one of them told you the truth. That's not journalism, guys. That is control. While you were honoring the fallen, spending time with your family, trying to get your break, they were feeding you distractions, recycled outrage, sanitized chaos, emotional triggers dressed up as news. But that's why this podcast is here, not to tell you what to think, but to remind you you still can. This is True Crime and the Court of Public Opinion. Stay sharp out there, guys, and always demand the truth. Stick around, subscribe. I'm here all week. We're talking cases and chaos and more headline lies on Friday. I'm Alexis Knight. Talk to you the next time.